Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Charming. So Charming is an animated musical, kind of in the same vein as other musicals you might have seen in the past, made by Disney and by DreamWorks. In fact, it was actually produced by filmmakers of the movie Shrek, and when you watch this film, you can definitely see the influence that that movie had on this particular one. The plot of Charming involves the character Prince Charming, as you can likely guess from the title, as he has to go on a quest in order to marry his true love. And right off the bat, I have to be a bit mean and say that this has to be the ugliest Prince Charming I have ever seen in my life. I don't know what it is. His head just looks like a tall, thin, fleshy banana. I don't know why I came up with that image in my head, but that was all I could think of when I just look at this guy. He just has the thinnest head you've ever seen. He's always got droopy eyes, so it always looks like he has a sad look on his face, even though he's smiling all the time and he's acting all cocky and everything. He always looks kind of depressed in every scene he's in. And he's got that ugly little weird soul patch of a beard growing at the bottom of his chin. It just sticks out like a sore thumb. It's just, it's awful. I couldn't deal with it. It was so bad. Anyway, as a child, Prince Charming was cursed by a witch named Nemone, in which he would win the charm and the affection of every woman that he encountered with. Any woman who locks eyes with him, anytime he locks eyes with them, it's just instant chemistry, instant fireworks. Every woman instantly falls in love with him. And he kind of takes advantage of this as a child when he's growing up, but as he gets older, he faces pressure from his father, the King Charming, to get married by the age of 21. Otherwise, after he turns 21, the curse stays there forever and he'll forever be cursed for the rest of his life. So in order to break the curse, Prince Charming has to go to a place called Fire Mountain and marry one of three princesses who you'll definitely recognize from Disney movies in the past. There's Cinderella, Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty. He has to choose one of those women and basically consider her his true love, and then he'll be able to break the curse after he weds that woman. There's a lot of gags that are surrounding that particular aspect, like the fact that all those princesses and all those other people want to marry the same guy. They're all in love with the same guy, but for some reason they don't clue in that other people are in love with the same guy as well. And then when other people bring it up, like one character in the story, it's a funny scene that happens near the beginning where she's like talking to the three princesses and she's like, so do you all plan to fall in love with the same Prince Charming? And then she shows them a photo and they all suddenly clue in that they're all interested in the same guy, and they just scream at the top of their lungs. It's like straight up Kevin McAllister from Home Alone. It's just like they go insane. It's like they can't believe that they all love the same guy, and it's like, come on guys, really? In order to make his way to Fire Mountain in one piece, Prince Charming relies on the help of a woman named Lenore who stays in disguise throughout most of the movie, I guess to kind of avoid distracting him from his journey. And as you might expect over the course of the story, Lenore and Charming get to know each other, they understand each other's history, and then there's a big reveal toward the end where Lenore ends up being a woman instead of a man. It's not really anything you haven't seen before. Like I said earlier, this film was produced by some of the creators of the Shrek film series, and you can see that a lot in this film and how much influence it had, specifically with all the references to fairy tales and faraway lands and mythical creatures, all that sort of thing. There's a lot of references to that, but it never feels like it's directly copying those movies, which I really do appreciate. There's actually a lot of different references to Latin themes as well. There's a lot of different kind of Latin foods like paella and those kinds of things that are thrown about throughout the story. Other Spanish words you'll hear here and there. The two lead actors in this movie are actually voiced by Latin American actors. The first one, Charming, by Wilmer Valderrama, and the second one, Lenore, voiced by Demi Lovato. So the overall presence of Latin themes in the story kind of helps it stand out a bit more from the usual fluff that you may see from Disney or any other sort of animation studio that's all around fairy tales. It's just nice to see an actual different cultural perspective in this animated musical as opposed to an average white guy rescuing an average white princess. I just like that they made it a little bit different in that respect. The animation quality itself is is pretty stiff in my opinion. It's obviously not going to be at the same level as a big budget Disney movie that you'd see in theaters or even on Disney Plus, basically anything that has Disney's name stamped on it. I find that the graphics of the animated movie are best when they're surrounded all the mythical creatures like the golems and the animals, and especially the vines in the forest. That was one of my favorite parts in the movies, when all these vines that have leaves for faces start coming out and they start having all these unique expressions on their faces. It was just really nice to see that forest scene, as well as how entertaining that sequence was in general. I had a good laugh or two at that scene. But at other times you can see, especially on the character models and on the faces of certain characters, that it's just not the best that it could have been. And that isn't necessarily the movie's fault, because it doesn't have the same budget as a Disney flick or any other sort of big budget animation studio that Hollywood would be taking a look at. But it would have been nice to see a bit more attention to detail, at least as far as the facial animation is concerned. Of course, since it is a musical, it also has a bunch of different songs in it. I think I counted, there's probably about 7 or 8 songs, might be a bit more. And whatever your opinions are on musicals, it ultimately matters on whether or not the songs themselves are enjoyable. They're obviously, again, same thing with the animation. It's not as memorable as anything you'd see in the Disney movie. It's just kind of middle of the road. It's not really terrible, but it's not really that great either. I think they put the most effort in the first song of the film, which takes place in the first few minutes of the film. And that doesn't even involve any of the lead characters, at least as far as the actual singing is concerned. And that's kind of weird, because I thought they would have put more effort into the songs that involve Prince Charming and Lenore, especially considering Lenore is sung by Demi Lovato, and she's an extremely talented singer in her own right. But to be fair, they do give a good moment for Lenore, aka Demi Lovato, to shine in the film. She gets her own song about halfway through the film as she's struggling to hide her identity and her growing feelings for Prince Charming over the course of the story. So that was a good moment. Overall, the songs are okay. Not really anything to write home about, but it's not really anything offensive either. And that's basically the gist of what I get from this charming movie. Is it's not really a standout movie in the sense that it's terrible, but it's not really standout in the sense that it's good. It's just kind of there. It just exists as good old-fashioned family fare. Which, if that's what you're looking for, if you just want an average fun flick to watch for the whole family, then you can't really go wrong with this one. I will say that there were certain scenes in the movie that were spot on with the humor. You can definitely tell they borrowed a lot of the more mature humor from Shrek in this regard. My favorite scene is the one toward the end with the executioner. I won't spoil anything, but it just completely turns the conventions of a typical executioner completely on its head. John Cleese voices the actual executioner in the movie, and he also happens to voice the fairy godmother in this one, which again is another reference to Shrek, which was a movie that he also participated in. That executioner is simply the funniest character in the movie. He's always so prim and polite and proper, just not what you'd expect from a typical executioner at all, and I just love how they play up his politeness to a T. It's just so awesome to see, and John Cleese makes the most out of that role. It's just awesome. You have to see that. But yeah, those are my opinions on Charming. It's a pretty decent film, but you can find much better animated movies to watch, and honestly, you've probably already seen better and will continue to see better in the future. But at the same time, if you do want to go ahead and watch it, I mean, it is there on Netflix. It's quick to access, it's easy, and some of the songs are pretty enjoyable for the most part. Overall, a decent animated flick, but nothing I'd really go crazy about. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Turkish film Stuck Apart, aka Azizler.